Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Alternative Fuel and Sustainable Fleets. Revolutionize your fleet with Autogas. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. You have joined the presentation and listening using your computer speaker system by default. If you prefer to join over the telephone, select the arrow next to the mute, unmute icon on the bottom of the Zoom screen. Select Leave Computer Audio and then select Phone Call and follow the prompt to dial in. During the presentation, we'll have a few poll questions for you to respond to when they come up, and I'll let you know how that works. You will also have the opportunity to submit text questions to our presenters today by typing them into the questions pane of the control panel. You may enter your questions at any time during the presentation. We will collect these and address them at the moment or at the end of the session. Today's webinar is being recorded, and you'll receive a follow-up email within 24 to 48 hours with a link to view the recording. We'll also provide a PDF version of the presentation slides, so you don't need to frantically take notes. Once this webinar is online, feel free to share it with your colleagues. Today, our agenda will cover the following. Some of the pressures that fleet managers are confronted with, the future of gasoline prices, what is autogas and autopropane, the various vehicles that converted to propane, and what the conversion process looks like, along with some fleet cost analysis and success stories. And now I'd like to introduce our presenters. Hugh Sutherland, Director, Autopropane, Superior Propane. A veteran of the propane industry, Hugh is known for his vision and dedication in the autogas sector. He helped build and run his family-owned propane company for 19 years until its acquisition by Superior Propane in 2016. As a director of Autopropane, Hugh and his team consult with fleet managers on how to equip their fleets to benefit from propane. Hugh is a recognized expert, educator, and advocate for Autopropane, and it is a regular presenter at industry summits. Our next speaker is Basil Marcus, Director of Business Development and Marketing at FOSS. As the Director of Business Development and Marketing at FOSS, Basil is passionate about changing the way we look at fleet management, green initiatives, and automotive trends. With a background of 10+ years in senior management roles in North America and internationally, Basil brings FOSS to a world of forward thinking and creative vision in order to pave paths to new programs and approaches. And with that, Hugh, take it away.
Thank you, Tracy. I appreciate that. And thank you to all the fleet managers and sustainable directors joining us today on this Autopropane webinar. Looks like we got about 76 or so people on the call today. So another thank you as well to FOSS for really trailblazing the fleet management industry in Canada by adopting Autopropane into their portfolio. So let's begin. You know, my group meets with a lot of fleet managers, and we quickly realize that many fleet managers wear many different hats in the organization. And we've listened to you, and you've told us some of your key pressures, and here are some of them. Rising gasoline prices, shrinkage and idling times, the challenge of death on their trucks because of the issues with cold operating environments, issues with maintenance costs and downtime, and with it, we've got a mix with the corporate sustainability environmental pressures, the corporation saying, hey, go green with our fleet, but stay within budget, and actually next year's budget's lower. Really? So one item that's really rocked fleet managers right now is the high price of gas that just hit the streets. We're looking at in BC today, gas hit $1.71.9 in BC. It's scary stuff. So how is it even possible to stay within budget when carbon taxes keep increasing and the taxes on those taxes? Well, next slide, we're going to give you the bad news. And then we're going to talk about the good news in this presentation. Kind of like my wife and I enjoyed John McEnroe's commentation on men's tennis. He says, the good news, you made it to the Wimbledon finals. The bad news, you're playing against Nadal. So the future of gasoline prices. Here we see current and imposing future gas prices for gasoline at the pumps across Canada. The pressure is real and imminent. It's based on legislation in Canada that is federal, and that's the carbon tax increases here in Canada. Fleet managers can expect to to see an increase of 20 to 25 cents per liter and even higher on diesel within the next 3 years. This is due to the high carbon content in petrol, gasoline, and diesel, producing exponential increases in carbon taxes year after year. The good news is that propane is a low carbon fuel. And you can see that that propane carbon tax is significantly less. Canada's Alternative Fuels Act recognizes propane for its low environmental impact. So what is autogas? Well, autogas is referred to as LP, liquefied petroleum gas, which is also autopropane. Autogas is essentially propane used for transportation fuel. The same clean burning fuel that you use on your grill, the nice blue flame, it's the same stuff that's going in your vehicle, but the vehicle pulls liquid from the tank and then burns the gas. A lot different than gasoline and diesel. You know, step back and imagine barbecuing your steak with gasoline and diesel. Propane is super clean. Propane's chemical structure is only made of 3 carbons and 8 hydrogens, hence the reason why carbon tax is so low on it. It's a very dense fuel and acts exactly like gasoline in an engine, yet it's clear, colorless, and in its liquid state, it looks identical to water. Yet its octane rating is off the charts. It's at 105. This provides a lot of heat and provides a very clean burn with lots of power. So clean transport today. Autogas is extremely clean. We're seeing the differences between petrol and diesel. If we've got any vehicle in the world can be converted to propane autogas. If it's a gasoline vehicle. We see the particulate matters dropping by 81% on diesel engines and diesel and gasoline. We're also seeing that the NOx levels, if we compare it to a diesel engine, we see the NOx levels dropping by 74%. In some cases, we see buses out there at 96% reductions. What that means is you can run 96 propane buses on the road for 1 equivalent diesel. So the other thing that's important is that in the greenhouse gas emissions, there's a whole slew of greenhouse gas emissions, but one of the significant ones is CO2. Propane from wheel to well gives a reduction of over 21%. Propane is evolving. The conversion kits have evolved just like our cell phones or TVs. In the old days, a TV would be a massive thing in your living room. Today, they hang up on the wall and are fantastic. Same with our cell phones. They used to be bricks. Now they're just these amazing devices. Propane technology has increased just as much, as well as the engines today that most fleet managers understand. The engines have evolved too. So the fuel is continually becoming efficient, not only on the conversion kits, but because of the engines evolving, the fuel continues to ride right along with it. We're also seeing that as the engines change, we've got direct injection vehicles. Autopropane has got conversion kits ready for market and right able to handle the direct injection vehicles that are even more clean and provide lower emissions. Autogas as well, we can have best of both worlds. So if you have a hybrid fleet of electric vehicles that are hybrid gasoline electric, propane can be put in there. And now you have best of both worlds. You've got an LP vehicle that is clean and can be a hybrid electric LP vehicle. We're starting to see that a lot. And the other thing we're seeing is that there's a company called Neste, which is it's a Finnish company that actually manufactures in Europe the first LP, bio LP available in the Netherlands. And this further reduces the CO from wheel to well down by 80%. So we're going to see biopropane come to Canada and North America within years. Autopropane today is one of the #1 alternative fuels in the world. In most countries, autopropane or autogas is the #1 fuel in their country, diesel second, and gasoline third. In North America, it's actually the reverse. We see gas as #1, diesel, and then propane as #3. So the rest of the world is quite ahead of us. You know, we picture ourselves in Canada very innovative and leading the industry on most things. yet we're behind by about 10 or 15 years from the rest of the world on auto propane. So poll question number 1.
Thank you, Hugh. I'm going to launch our first poll question right now. You should be able to see it on your desktop right now. So our first poll, on average, what is the price difference between gasoline and propane? For our attendees, you can just select the appropriate answer. And Hugh, let's just give everyone just a few more seconds to respond. After that, I can end the polling and I'll share the results. Okay. And there, now you can see the results from our first poll.
Yeah, thank you. We see the results. We're seeing that people have selected 40%, 57% of the people have picked 40%. So let's go through and find out what the actual number is. Well, here it is. For the last 60 years, propane has been half the price of gasoline. And in fact, we're seeing that just recently, with all these tax increases and carbon increases, propane's becoming even higher than that. So if you look at, for example, I've got two in this pricing schedule here. We've got Vancouver in Ontario. Vancouver gasoline is $1.71 a liter. We have a posted price of propane today at 90.3 cents a liter. That's posted price at the pumps. But if you get a Superior Propane fleet card, you can expect to pay 75 cents a liter for your fleet. That's almost $1 a liter savings in Vancouver. In Ontario, we're seeing very similar prices. We've got gasoline at $1.33 in Ontario. Propane at the pumps, at posted pumps, this should be around 76.5. But if you get a Superior Propane 24/7 fleet card, you can experience anywhere in Ontario 60.7 cents a liter. These are significant numbers, and we're starting to see that as gas and diesel continue to go up, the reason why we're seeing propane, we've seen it as a more stable fuel. You can see it doesn't move up and down as much, and fleet managers enjoy that. So where does propane fit into your whole fleet? Well, it's not the silver bullet for your fleet. I'll tell you that right now. Today, electric seems to be taking over the smaller vehicles. And if you're going to alternative fuels, that's a great way to go electric. We're seeing that the bigger vehicles are transitioning from either biodiesel or going to LNG. So where does propane fit in North America? Although any vehicle can be converted to propane, we're starting to see that we understand that propane really hits the light and medium duty vehicles in the fleet. So these are your workhorses in your vehicle fleet. So here's an example of the vehicles. We chose Ford because Ford is very progressive, in which you'll see that all the vehicles here are Ford, but Ford is very progressive in the fact that you can literally go online and order a prepped vehicle on Ford that comes from the factory ready for propane. But any manufacturer, propane does not void its warranty. We were seeing that auto gas kits, we know that auto gas kits approved in Canada are approved by the Canadian Safety Authority, CSA, for safety, and all the tanks that are designed and approved by Transport Canada. So a propane tank itself is 20 times more puncture resistant than a gasoline tank, very safe, and all the conversion kits are CSA approved. And in Canada, anything can be converted, whereas our US partners, and we might have some fleet managers online, the United States uses an EPA standard and CARB standard for converting vehicles that has to be approved prior to the vehicle being converted. One of the interesting things that's happening with propane is it's now starting to get into the medium-sized duty vehicle. So we're starting to see propane is eliminating the fleet manager's requirement to be on DEF systems. So if you go and talk to any trucking company and you say, hey, how do you like DPF and how do you like DEF? They're going to look at you funny and say, look, we don't. So propane now, you can get a medium-sized duty vehicle. We're talking 33,000 GVW that is right from the ground up on monofuel. It's on propane. It's liquid injection, and it's completely different than diesel and does not require DEF fluid and DPF issues. So it reduces the NOx levels by up to 96%, and we're seeing that a huge uptake with Roush and Bluebird with their buses. We're seeing that there's I think there's 11,000 buses that pick up over 800,000 children every morning on propane buses. So the great news about propane medium-sized duty vehicle, it's monofuel, runs on propane, comes to the factory that way, but it will actually start in colder temperatures than -48 without being plugged in. We're seeing some situations where buses are starting at -53 and just starting up no problem. Poll question number 2.
Thanks, Hugh. Our second poll, let me launch it. You should be able to see that on your screen right now. What would it cost to convert a light-duty vehicle, an F-250 and F-350, from gasoline to propane? Oh, our answers are coming in quite fast here, so I'll just give everyone just another moment to select the appropriate response. And just another few seconds here. For those that haven't voted, all you need to do is take your cursor and select the appropriate response. Excellent. And there, Hugh, you can see the results of our poll.
Yeah. Well, again, we got a mix. We got 51% of the people in the right section, and the rest are a little off. But let's go through it and let's find out the right answer. So thank you, Tracy. So if you're converting a biofuel vehicle, you can expect that a conversion costs around $6,000. So what actually makes up a conversion? Well, there's 3 components. There's the tank itself, which in most cases will replace the spare tire of your vehicle, so the tank looks like a spare tire. You can also put a tank in the back of the pickup truck if you like, but most customers like to put the tank where the spare tire is. And then you've got the conversion kit, so that's the lines and the injectors, and then you have the labor that puts it all together. So if you think of it like this, the tank is $2,000, conversion kit's $2,000, and labor's $2,000. So when we consult with fleet managers, some customers that we have are very large organizations that have mechanics. They can actually do the labor and be trained by the conversion kits manufacturers themselves. So they can almost eliminate that labor cost. But at the end of the day, we have conversion partners all across Canada. If you want your vehicles converted, just consider those 3 costs, 2, 2, and 2, and that's your conversion cost to convert a vehicle. And that vehicle runs on biofuel. So it starts on gasoline, and once the vehicle hits 30 degrees Celsius, it automatically flips over to propane, and you can enjoy running on propane. You can't tell which fuel you're on, and you're saving money. So now we're going to talk about the fleet vehicle analysis. We're actually going to dive deep into the cost calculator of a vehicle. So we picked a very relative, one of the most popular vehicles out there, a Ford F-150 2018 direct injection vehicle. So we can see that its costs, I'm just going to grab a laser pointer here. The initial cost on propane is a little bit higher because we bought a prepped engine. So we went to the Ford dealership. They got us a Ford vehicle that's prepped. It cost $400 more to have that vehicle prepped. So that means it's got hardened heads. Then we put a conversion kit on it. It cost $6,800 in this particular situation because it was a direct injection vehicle that has another computer on it. So we see the bad news. We're like, okay, we've got a capital investment of $7,200 before this thing hits the road. And then it starts to get a little bit different when we start seeing the total lifetime vehicle kilometers. If this vehicle does about 35,000 kilometers a year, we're going to keep this vehicle for 7 years on the road, doing 250,000 kilometers. We see that the gasoline burns it averages at less liters per 100 kilometers than propane. So propane actually burns 10% more to go the same mileage, and that's true. But that's the end of the bad news. The good news is the price of fuel. So if you look at it, you needed 30,000 liters of gasoline, 33,000 liters of propane. there's where the prices come in, and there we can see our total savings. Now the vehicle just saved us $20,000. Our mileage, our maintenance has significant reductions because of how clean it is. Vehicles and engines last longer, more time you can go between oil changes, but stay within the warranty of your oil changes. And we're seeing maintenance reductions in half. So we're seeing those reductions, and we're also seeing the CO2 emissions, which we can help calculate for you. But at the end of the day, we'll see a net lifetime savings of that vehicle of $19,000, and we've paid off our conversion in 1.9 months within 2 years. And that's what we try and talk to fleet managers. It should make sense to have an ROI within 2 years. Some fleet managers would like to enjoy the carbon credits, and if they go past 1.9 years, they're okay with that, but we try and consultative approach to stick within the 2 years. Okay, so if we took that fleet, vehicles, we had a fleet that wanted to flip over 17 of those F-150s. So you'll see that year 0, they did nothing. The gold bar represents their amount of gasoline they purchased. They never switched any vehicles to propane, so they spent $94,000 in gasoline. So this particular fleet took year 1. They decided, because of this division, they assumed and they said, you know what? They're all 2017 F-150s. We're going to convert them all. And you could see that they immediately used all propane and a little bit of gasoline to start the vehicle. So you can see it took just under 2 years to pay off those conversions. And then the green line represents the amount of net savings they've enjoyed throughout those 7 years. And I think that's around $176,000. So it's a significant savings that they've enjoyed from their investment. Okay, and off to Basil.
Thanks, Hugh. So implementation with Foss National Leasing or LeasePlan Canada is relatively easy. We take care of 95% of all the tasks, right from sourcing the vehicle, whether it be prepped or sourcing it through stock through our dealer network, coordinating with the upfitters for the conversion, tank and the installation, and connecting your drivers with the experts at Auto Propane to make sure they're getting trained appropriately and they are fully aware of how to use that vehicle. This will allow you to, what we also do is we allow you to fully capitalize the cost of that conversion with the cost of the vehicle on any new vehicle. So you're spreading that $6,000 that you referred to over the 6 year, over that same period of time as you're spreading the cost of the vehicle. And we can also help you with your existing vehicles. If you want to get a conversion, you can use our Foss or LeasePlan fuel maintenance card to pay for that conversion and then start tracking all of those expenses through our fleet portal. I'll hand it back to you, Hugh.
Yeah, thanks, Basil. And what's interesting is Foss is not only going to be net new conversions, but if you become a customer of Foss's, they'll even take your existing fleet and convert them and tie it up into a nice lease for you. So if you're with a fleet management company that does not offer a program on propane, switch to Foss. They got a great program to support an auto gas initiative. Okay, so one of the obstacles that fleet managers talk to us about is, how do I get propane? Okay, well, it's one of the most available fuels out there as an alternative fuel in the marketplace. So you can visit any one of our retailers, like fueling retailers like Petro-Canada, and Esso, and Husky, and Canadian Tire, and there's many more. Couldn't put them all on here, but you can go there, drive up, and the attendant there will fill your vehicle for you, and you enjoy a retail price at a convenient location that's near you. There's another way you can get propane is we supply you a bulk propane tank, so you actually don't have to go out and buy a tank. We'll supply you under a fuel agreement a full-on auto gas dispensing system where you can fill 24 hours a day at your own facility, and we incorporate fleet management with that through our partner Foss. You can also hit some of our card locks. So we've got card locks throughout the country. Majority of them are in BC, in the Lower Mainland. So what you can do there is you've got a corporate established price throughout different provinces, and you can just go right to that site, swipe your card, and fill yourself. So your drivers would have to be trained, but you can get your corporate rate right at the pump and not have to worry about different prices at different retailers. So for example, our website shows all of our locations. So you can, if you were in Abbotsford, BC, you could actually just click on one of those locations. There's 2 locations there, and it will drive you right to that location to fill up your propane vehicle.
Excellent, and thank you, gentlemen. I do have a couple of quick questions if I can jump in there. Our first question, did Voss just say that the conversion can be paid by using the fuel card?
I can answer that one for you. So our card is a fuel and maintenance card. So as long as the upfitter or vendor is set up with Voss National Leasing, they can use that card to pay for the conversion.
Thank you, Basil. And just a reminder, if you do have any questions, just type them into the questions box. We'll either ask them at the end of the session or throughout. Our next question, just a quick one. Do you have a conversion shop in Halifax?
Yes. Well, it's in Moncton. There's a gentleman there named JP's Auto in Moncton, and he's excellent at conversion. So I would remember the vehicle has wheels and it can drive to Moncton. I think there is a conversion center in Truro, which is halfway to Moncton, but there's some definite partners out there, and I would implore you to go and visit our friend JP's Auto, JP out of Moncton. He's excellent.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, I'm pretty excited to get a Voss card to do conversions. Anyway, okay. So data integration. Well, this is what our newest auto gas propane retailing dispensers look like. They're pretty nice looking. What happens is now we can get all of the fuel management from these dispensers. So they're cellular based, they're cloud connected, and you can, as a fleet manager, you can see your real-time transactions. So you know who filled, which vehicle, how much fuel, what time, what location, and it's all available on our back end, and you'd see it on your invoices, you can see it electronically, you can see the real-time transactions. You can add your own fobs. It's not controlled by us. We give you a blank slate fobs. You basically add your drivers, add your vehicles to the fobs, and you can cancel a fob at any time within seconds. We also have our fueling card that hits some of our sites as well. And back over to Basil.
Thank you. So we're very proud that our card is the only fleet management card that is accepted for payment of propane dispensers. So you can easily use your Voss National Leasing or LeasePlan kind of fuel maintenance card to make your payments, and it makes it easy for you to manage your entire fuel expense. All purchases are tagged to one vehicle, whether it's propane, gas, it's all going to go to that one vehicle in our portal. We will then generate any exception reports will be created around these costs. Custom maintenance parameters will be set up for that vehicle to make sure that you're always keeping that vehicle maintained and road ready. And consolidating billing is always nice. So all your billing, whether it be for gas, propane, maintenance, tires, will all come in one tidy package to you. It's very easy as well with our portal and our advanced technology to review any of the details or any costs associated with your vehicle at any time, anywhere. And that's back to you.
Thanks, Basil. So yeah, the next obstacle we see with fleet managers, you know, what do I have to do to get my staff trained to fill? So if you wanted to hit one of our card locks that's 24/7, or even if you had a return to base tank on your site and you need training, The propane code across Canada requires that all of the anywhere across Canada, you do need training for propane, and the training is less than 3 fills. It's about less than $150, and you require, in the traditional way of filling, gloves and eye protection for filling. But it's a simple course. It's an hour and a half, and we have training partners throughout the country, as well as Superior also trains. So that's the traditional way in which we fill. But in 2020, the B149 propane code book, our code book, is allowing the use of a European nozzle. As I said, we're 10 or 15 years behind the Europeans, but we've adopted this new nozzle that does not require gloves and eye protection. It's an incredible device. If you ever get to fill with one, you just simply push it on, pull the trigger. When you release, it disconnects without any release of propane at all. So you do not need gloves. And we're working with legislation right now, and legislators that have even tested this, and they're saying, yes, it would be a simple awareness propane course, which your drivers would take online, and a practical, which we at Superior, any one of our consultative sales reps can come out and give you a practical on how to fill with the new Euro style connection. So I think there's a question that just came in. I think there's about 4 of them, but maybe we could take the time now to answer a question.
Thanks, Hugh. We do have a few questions here, and I'm not sure if you want them now or at the end, but I'll just start. Does the conversion allow for HOV lanes?
That's a good question. I believe in some of the provinces it does, because it's considered an alternative vehicle. So yes, you can go into the HOV lanes and enjoy driving there. I believe the 407 on electric does not require you to pay the 407. I don't believe propane is there yet, but that's something that the Canadian Propane Association should lobby, because you're a cleaner vehicle, and boy, those 407 passes are quite large.
Thank you, Hugh. Our next question, are there any resale statistics to make the conversion even more economic?
Yeah, I think it's a two-folded question. So I hope I answer this right for this customer. So for example, if you do a conversion and you spent your $6,000, which is your tank, your conversion kit, and your labor, and you've gone through the life cycle of your vehicle, let's say you decided to run that vehicle for 7 years, that vehicle has 2 options for you on remarketing. So with FOSS, they could remarket the vehicle. They'll probably get a little more money for that vehicle, because there's a depreciated amount on that $6,000, so they'll probably get $2,000 more or $3,000 more for that vehicle than you would normally get at an auction, because once these contractors and things see this vehicle as dual fuel, and they can save money, they're forking out a little more money for them. Another way to look at it is stripping the vehicle of its tank and kit and then moving it to the next vehicle. So we've got some customers that actually do that, because the tanks last, if they're taken care of, can last 2 cycles of a vehicle, and they take the kit. So the way you can think of it is you can take the kit off for $1,000, put it back on the next vehicle for $1,000, and you've taken that $6,000 investment and moved it to paid off from the first vehicle, and now it's only a $2,000 investment for the next vehicle. So you can quickly enjoy your return on investment on 2 different vehicles. Hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you, Hugh. Let's have one more question right now, and then I'll let you continue. Does this card work at any gas station retailer that has propane?
That's a good question. There's 2 answers for that. So I believe if it's a FOSS card, FOSS transactions, maybe Basil can explain that I believe when FOSS can be used at any retailer for propane, that's no problem. But when we use the Superior propane card, it's only for our card locks. It's only for the card locks that are designated 24/7 card locks that you fill yourself.
Excellent, Hugh. Thanks so much. I'll let you continue.
Okay, so a couple more slides to the end of the presentation. We have our next steps. If you are interested in meeting some of our people, we have Superior Propane has done a tremendous investment out of any other propane company in Canada that I know of, is that we've got a lot of money, capital investment in people. We have dedicated reps, what we call BDRs, specialists that sell propane auto for fleets. So we've got consultants that are across the country that are dedicated to auto, but we also have in our company 55 highly trained consultative sales reps that sell propane on all different levels. So we're here to help consult. So in your local area, you'll definitely have a propane sales rep, a consultant that can help. And we also have dedicated autogas BDRs that can help as well in that situation. So maybe 2 people coming to help you consult if propane makes sense for your fleet. And then we take the next approach is we equip you with everything you need to have a successful autogas plan. So we help you get the vehicles converted. We either organize training if you have your own mechanics, or we hook you up with a local conversion center and make it easy and affordable for you with supplying you a tank. All you're requiring in those situations, if you want to return to base tank, is you need electricity to the pump and some vehicle protection for the tank. We also support you through the next steps of your journey. We also do the training. We have electronic invoicing. We have fleet management. Everything you need to have a successful autogas plan. Work with us, and we'd be more than happy to help you out through that. And last but not least, if you would like to drive a propane vehicle and see the power that they have, and I'll tell you right now, I drive an F-150 EcoBoost. We bought an F-150 on V8 for both types of models there that you can drive. You can flip them over to propane, flip them to gas. I can tell you, you will not know which fuel you're on. The technology is amazing. It's come a long way, and there's vehicles in each province for you to drive. You could drive them as a fleet manager, sustainable manager. We ask that bring a decision maker, maybe even an accountant in the car and drive the vehicles. They're a lot of fun to drive, and you'll see firsthand the incredible power and efficiency and how amazing the technology has improved for auto propane. So I wanted to go through a couple case studies. We promised some case studies. So for example, we have a recent case of a very highly known brand called 1-800-GOT-JUNK. Lots of us have heard the advertisements online. This was a certain franchise in British Columbia that tested 5 of the Zuzu LP trucks. That was kind of like on the borderline of a medium duty vehicle. So with Zuzu as an OEM, you can go to the Zuzu dealer and buy an OEM prepped propane vehicle. The conversion was put on the vehicle. It cost $6,000. And they rolled out 5. So what they found immediately, they enjoyed a 20% reduction in CO2. They used our CarLock network, so we trained their staff, and they used our network. They used our cards to get propane at a substantially lower rate than the retail price of propane and gasoline. They saved per vehicle $500 per vehicle per month. They paid off their ROI, their paid off their conversion within 1 year, and they saved $48,000 per vehicle for the lifetime of the vehicle. Another case study, just the last one here. We have another one available in our resources section in our presentation. But this is an interesting company that this is actually a city in New Westminster, BC. It's a small city, but the cool thing about this fleet is they have 9 different applications. This fleet manager has used propane on 9 different vehicles. So we like to showcase this type of customer for anybody that's a large municipal fleet or a large company that has different departments. So they use propane on their police vehicles. So they have actually, because of the lower operating cost, they actually got their guys into SUVs. They had an option to buy the drivers, the police officers wanted to drive the SUV. because the SUV is almost propane, acts like a little Honda Civic in cost. They were able to give them what they wanted. Police officers are happy, and they've enjoyed the savings on those. They've done F-150s, they've done some Frontiers, they've done F-250s, F-350s, F-450s. They've even done some dump trucks on a diesel blend. They've also done some fleet sweepers on propane for the compressor for the sweeping, as well as running the diesel blend on the vehicle. So their annual fleet savings is around $325,000 a year, and their carbon savings, which they are very proud of, and they put on the back of the vehicles their own logo that says that if they're a green fleet, they've saved $2,100 in carbon emissions in tons per year. So, any more questions?
Thank you, Hugh. We do have some questions. Let me jump right in. Will you be providing a list of local conversion shops?
Yes, we have a list of conversion shops across the country. If you want to email us, we'd be more than happy to connect you with whatever region you're in, whatever province, with the conversion centers that are near you. And I'll just remind you, there is training to do your own if you have your own mechanic. So if you have a Red Stripe mechanic, they can get trained. It's a plug-and-play system. It's not a lot, and the mechanics would be happy to put them on for you.
Thanks, Hugh. Our next question, does GM or Dodge offer the propane upfit? And if not, will it void warranty?
That's a good question. I'm going to answer that in two sections again. So the first step, GM and Chrysler, both of them, we have letters from them that propane does not void their warranties, number one. You do not need a prepped engine vehicle to flip over to propane, okay? So that's number one. If you are, and I'll just put this out there, if you're pulling a heavy trailer, okay, we recommend a prepped engine from prepped engine for that. But there is a thing called valve care that we can put on a GM or a Ram. So with the Ford vehicles, anything above a 250, I believe, are already prepped anyway when they come from the dealer. But yeah, you do not need to be prepped, and it will not void your warranty in any of the major OEMs.
Thanks, Hugh. Our next question, for the private citizen, are the kits available?
Absolutely. We can connect you with one of the conversion centers. You're more than happy to enjoy the corporate price that Superior will offer you. So it'll be a small discount at the conversion center for you. Yes, you can just drive in. It takes takes less than 3 days to convert your vehicle, so about 2 days. So if you drop it off on, say, a Friday, you'll be able to pick it up on Sunday night or Monday morning. Yeah, most vehicles take no more than 2 days to convert, and then we can also get you the course to fill your own if you'd like, or you can go to any of our retailers and fill up.
Thanks, Hugh. I think I have a follow-up for that one. For the VW diesels, are kits available?
That's the only challenge, okay? Diesel is nothing, you cannot convert a diesel engine, okay? It's a different engine platform. So propane is only available to convert on gasoline type engines. When we talked about the diesel garbage trucks, for example, heavy duty vehicles, there is a technology called diesel blend, and it's basically a propane tank on the system. The system is about twice the cost of a conversion. But what happens there is when the vehicle is running, the computer pulls back 25% of the diesel and pushes in 25% of propane. So a couple things that we're seeing is that, one, because propane's half the price of diesel, we're seeing a 12% reduction in fuel costs, but we're also seeing less DPF issues with the vehicle and less use of DEF fluid. So that's on bigger heavy duty vehicles. So a little Volkswagen on diesel, pretty efficient already. I would only say if you bought that Volkswagen, it's on gas, it can be converted.
Thank you, Hugh. Our next question, what will you be adding biopropane to your offerings?
Yeah, Superior is a marketer of fuel. We actually do not manufacture propane, but the companies like Neste and things like that may move operations into North America. We're going to see that within years. Most of that fuel is before the plant's even put up is already sold. For example, Nestle does 79 million liters of fuel annually. That's a drop in a bucket for a company our size, but we definitely will look into it if it's available, because if we see a benefit there for vehicles, I think the whole industry would be able to provide lower greenhouse gas emissions on the vehicle platforms.
Thanks, Hugh. Our next question, is Superior looking to expand their auto propane networking, fueling stations, and maybe with some partnership add some conversion centers in Atlantic Canada?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that the challenge that we have with fleet managers is you have to bear with us. When you look at your fleet and you're going across the country and you've got drivers, let's say it's a sales rep in each of the provinces, and you're looking to get propane right near their home, obviously it's not as convenient as gasoline, but if you look at the route in which they travel, there's more than likely they're going to bump into a propane station somewhere along their route. And it may be closer to their home. There may be a propane station in their little town that they live in, and it may be a Canadian Tire or a Home Hardware. And we may, as a marketer, a propane marketer, supply the fuel for that tank. It's easy for us to approach our customer and say to them, hey, can you add autogas here? Maybe they fill cylinders for barbecues and things like that. We convince the retailer that makes sense. And if you've got a fleet in that area, we can add the autogas to that station and enhance it for you. So bear with us. There's propane there probably in that town, maybe not the card lock that you want, but if you can let us know what your fleet plans are, we can definitely accommodate.
Thanks, Hugh.
So the second question was, I think, alternative conversion centers in Atlantic Canada. As this is growing, more conversion centers will come online. But I just there are experts in that marketplace. I know Atlantic Canada it's pretty far to travel, but the vehicles do travel. And what I should recommend is get the experts to do your initial conversions on your test, and then you can also take if you have mechanics, they can take the maintenance on it, so you don't have to travel back and forth if there's a maintenance issue. That's what I would recommend. And if you do have mechanics, maybe your next batch of vehicles, if you're quite far away, you work with the conversion center to support you, but maybe you work with the kit manufacturer and they fly in a trainer and trains your mechanics.
Thanks, Hugh. Our next question, how many dealerships are certified to work on propane vehicles?
How many dealerships? Well, the entire Ford network is able to work on a Ford vehicle, and again, the propane is not void warranty. So it's not a very complicated system. You can press a button and turn off the propane, and they can use their diagnostic equipment right away and figure out that your gas cap is open. But yeah, any of the Ford dealerships are able to work on it. If you find that your Ford dealer in your local market or something is hesitant about it, I'm telling you, there's another Ford dealer just around the corner, that will help you through it. It's education. You have to bear with that. There's education. You can remind them that look at their own corporate website and see that there's propane prepped engines. Ford is very progressive when it comes to alternative fuels, and their dealers will definitely support it. If you need a vehicle or need maintenance with that vehicle.
Thanks, Hugh. Our next question, do you have a list of vehicles that can be converted with MSRP prices for the conversions?
Well, that's when you first get into the auto propane business, you think, okay, I need a list of which vehicles can be converted. Okay, this is a more American thing. Okay, so because of EPA requirements, because of CARB requirements, each vehicle has to be approved to be converted in the United States. Canada as a country has taken a different perspective. The perspective is we make sure that the kits that come into Canada have gone through the approval process with CSA, so they're tested to -42, and you can only use a Transport Canada approved propane tank. And in those situations, Canada has said anything can be converted, because Canada realizes that the vehicle that's converted is going to be a cleaner vehicle, so we don't need to do the EPA, and well, we don't have EPA in Canada, but we don't have to do the clean testing. So any vehicle, going back to the question, can be converted over to propane in Canada.
Thanks, Hugh. Our next question. Ram 5.7 does not need a value care, only the 3.6 engine. The Ram 5.7 is one of the most durable engines on propane out there.
Yeah, I think I know who's this.
That might be a comment.
This is getting technical, but basically, the gentleman that is asking this question, and I'll explain what's going on. So it gets technical. This engine. The bottom line is the Ram vehicle is still on sequential injection, hasn't gone to direct injection. If you're looking at a fleet of vehicles, you know, Ram is going to have a lower cost to convert, and it's an excellent vehicle to run on propane. We have a salesman that runs around in a Ram, and I think he's at some crazy number, 450,000 kilometers on this vehicle on propane, and it's running fantastic. I think he's gone through one set of injectors at 420,000 K, and it's still running on propane.
Thanks, Hugh. Our next question. What happens when the nozzle conversion takes place in the European model? Will there be a need for a further conversion to be able to fill the tank?
Yeah, well, what happens on a vehicle, in most cases, we don't actually fill up the tank, because the tank's where the tire is, but there'll be a remote fill. And that remote fill has the traditional ACME connection. So if you have a return to base fleet and you're filling at your own private facility, so two things can happen. You switch the nozzle to the European nozzle, so you have safe filling without training, legislative training that's going to be changing, but you've got your propane awareness training there. So the vehicle, you should be switching it over. So the remote fill is a simple $75 part. It's a brass part. It disconnects. There's a fuel line that goes from the tank to the remote fill. You switch that over to the Euro connection. It's a male connection, and your entire fleet is on this new Euro connection. If you travel somewhere that is not return to base, so let's say your driver leaves your return to base in Toronto and goes up to Sudbury and needs propane up there. There is an adapter that they can fill from old, the old gas guard into ACME into your new vehicle. So there's adapters to go both ways, from old to new, new to old. So you're not stuck. And it's been well thought out, and there's solutions any way you want to go.
Thank you. Our next question. What would it take to train my mechanics to install and service a conversion kit?
Well, the mechanics have to be full-on mechanics. They can't be a sideshow mechanic, okay? They have to be in most provinces in Canada, I guess, red sealed. I'm not versed on all the requirements, but essentially it has to be a real full-fledged mechanic. What happens is the distributor of the brand will fly in an expert. They'll do some preliminary stuff before your mechanics get the full-on training. So what they'll do is they'll get to know what your fleet is, make, model, year of your vehicles, and send you the exact kits you need for your vehicles. So as well, they're going to send you some webinar information where your mechanics takes a little bit of an online course to prep themselves. And they may do a little bit of prepping of the vehicle, take the spare tire off, put the tank on, run the fuel lines based on the webinar. And then the full-on training technician flies in, and he spends 2 days or 1 day, depending on the complexity of your fleet, and trained your staff, then they become certified for alternative fuels. There is, in some provinces, a conversion license that your facility gets. If your facility does not need special buttons and radars and sonars and things, there's no requirement, no change of your insurance. The licenses may be the most expensive I've seen is $110, and your facility is able to do propane conversions.
Thanks, Hugh. Our next question, are there any provinces that offer incentive for converting to auto propane?
Good question. There used to be incentives back in the day. They used to be the PST, back then was like there was the PST was on the new vehicle was taken off, and you could get up to, I think, $1,500. No, there is no provincial money for conversions. How the province looks at it is it's a good deal. They've already lowered the tax in some provinces like Quebec. There is no tax on propane. So that's the way they're doing it in Quebec. In Ontario, they have a very, very low price on tax on propane. So their incentive is that way with is less tax, which makes a lot of sense. So we're seeing Quebec is a hotbed for auto propane right now. So if you have a fleet of vehicles and you're in Quebec, you should be seriously looking at propane, because I think propane today in Quebec is like 53 cents a liter.
Thanks, Hugh. Thanks, Hugh. I think we have time for one more question today. Hugh, what is the average tank size capacity in the kits in L?
In liters.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great that's a great question. It depends on the vehicle. I mean, you know, like an F-150, for example. Okay, very basic light duty vehicle. You've got, if you take the tank out or the tire out, you can put 95 liters, usable liters, in the tank that looks like the tire. And that's what I have in my vehicle and all of our vehicles. There is, if you would like, you can put a tank in the bed, and those tanks are about 140 liters. So you can go on the 90-liter tank, I think you can go like 684 kilometers. On the 140-liter tank, you can go upwards to 1,200 kilometers. When the vehicles get bigger, so we start jumping into the F-250s and 350s, there'll be a side-mounted tank on the driver's side that you can fill, and there's different tank size configurations that the conversion center can work with you on that. So they can tell you the mileage that you're going to get on the vehicle, and you can decide which tank you can get. So remember, tanks are expensive, but they're not that crazy expensive as you go bigger. So don't be worried about bigger is going to cost you a hell of a lot more. It's actually, they're just expensive no matter what, but they don't double in price because of the size of them. In actuality, they're about the same price. So when you're, you know, working with your conversion partner, one of our conversion partners, or even our BDRs, we can help work with our distributors of the tanks to get you the exact tank configuration that you like for your vehicle, and work with you that way.
Thank you, Hugh, and thank you, Basil. We are running out of time for today, so I will be wrapping up the session. We'd like to thank everyone for attending today's webinar, and as mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, you will receive a follow-up email within 24 to 48 hours with a link to view a recording of today's presentation and a PDF of the slide deck. And on behalf of Superior Propane and FOSS, thank you for joining us today, and have a great rest of your day.